I kept quiet for a long time, but the memory of that day still sends shivers down my spine. The events at church, involving my beloved 12-year-old nephew, unfolded with a cruel predictability that still haunts me. He recounted the details to me over the phone, his voice trembling, and I knew then that our lives, his especially, would never be the same. This isn't merely a recounting. It's a stark warning of the suffocating grip of religious upbringing, the insidious nature of verbal abuse, and the devastating consequence of cutting a child off from the relatives who offer the unwavering support. The atmosphere surrounding this revelation, I must caution you, is nothing short of tragic. It was June 29th, 2025, when my nephew's world began to unravel. Every few months, our church holds a special Youth Sunday. It's designed as a showcase, a moment for our younger members to shine. The youth pastor delivers the sermon to the adults, while the eager youth band passionately leads the worship, allowing the regular team a well-deserved break. Our young people also confidently handle the church announcements and respectfully pass the tithe baskets. And then, there's always a moment of pure artistry. Someone performs a heartfelt song as the offerings are collected. This time, that sacred duty, that moment in the spotlight, was to be my nephew's. He had prepared for weeks, his young heart brimming with excitement and a pure desire to share his voice. He was ready to stand before the congregation, ready to sing, ready to offer his spirit. Oh, how innocently he believed in the goodness of that moment. I didn't immediately grasp the full, sinister implications of what was unfolding. A cold dread, a premonition of despair, had just begun to seep into my consciousness, a chilling whisper of the pain yet to come for him. My sweet nephew, so vulnerable, so trusting, oh, I've kept this story hidden, a poignant blend of youthful vulnerability and crushing disappointment. On June 15th, my 12-year-old nephew, a dedicated pianist, faced his biggest stage. Not a youth band member, years of lessons led him here. His first time playing a worship song in adult service. Their church, with 2 services and over 1,000 capacity, presented a daunting audience. The scale, the collective gaze, weighed heavily on his young, sensitive spirit. My heart aches for the pressure he endured. As he took his seat, ready to play, paralyzing stage fright swept over him. More than nerves, it was a profound emotional breakdown. Tears welled, then streamed down his face. He sat there, weeping on the piano bench, unable to begin. My heart clenched. A kind youth leader rushed to comfort him, but my nephew, consumed by deep embarrassment and sorrow, couldn't muster courage. He was lost in that public anguish, his spirit shattered. Yet the church's response was remarkably gracious. Witnessing his struggle, they offered not judgment, but incredible, empathetic support. As the leader gently guided him off stage, the congregation rose, giving him a powerful, heartfelt standing ovation. A truly moving gesture, a balm for his wounded spirit. Last week, my nephew called me, voice raw, to vent about the aftermath. During the week, his despair transformed into fierce anger, then unyielding determination. He was motivated to try again, bravely securing permission from the youth pastor to play that same song next Youth Sunday. Hope rekindled, but then came the cruelest blow. He relayed his plans to his father, my own brother, only to be met with an unequivocal, devastating no. A single, crushing word shattered his renewed hope. Now, my courageous nephew grapples with fresh, agonizing disappointment. That parental veto reverberates, an unfair barrier to his bravery. He feels betrayed, his efforts dismissed. The injustice hangs heavy. What future awaits his brave, musical heart? The uncertainty hangs heavy. The arguments tearing through my brother's home were truly beyond belief. His wife, their child's mother, firmly believed he should participate, seeing it as a growth opportunity. My brother, however, remained utterly unyielding. Their efforts to convince the boy proved futile. He wasn't budging. Though I've long left organized religion, raised Christian, but behind me, I still recognize the profound power of unspoken testimony. A child overcoming fears, inspiring countless others, a moment waiting to happen. Why couldn't my brother see it? Why actively oppose such a beautiful display of courage? The situation weighed heavily on me. I knew I had to understand. So I picked up the phone and called him directly, seeking an explanation for his stubborn stance. His words, when they came, were chillingly clear. He explained his refusal stemmed from a conviction that the performance wouldn't truly be about God if it were purely a personal triumph. He insisted that his son's journey of redemption, if it truly existed, should unfold elsewhere, perhaps a secular recital, disconnected from the sacred space of the church. I tried, gently at first, to make him see the light. I urged him to be proud of his son's emerging motivation, regardless of the venue, but his resolve was unshakable. The church, he reiterated coldly, is simply not the place for it. Frustration simmered within me. I pushed back, reminding him that the very essence, the literal point, of church was redemption itself. I passionately argued that his son's perseverance could touch hearts, inspire others in ways he couldn't imagine. But he dismissed my words with a wave, declaring I simply didn't understand, and worse, that it was none of my business. The sheer irony, the utter madness of his position, struck me then. How could he be so blind? I kept quiet for a long time, but this story still makes me shiver. I pleaded with my brother to support his son, but his resolve was unyielding. He wouldn't budge. I know it's none of my concern. Yet, I cannot fathom a father denying support to his son over some profoundly ludicrous conviction, especially when even the youth pastor stands in unwavering agreement. The situation feels like an impossible knot. Later, my nephew shared devastating news. His father would inform the youth pastor of his final decision. The words felt like a cruel dismissal, amplifying his profound disappointment. My heart aches. I fear my hands are tied. Is there counsel from those within the church, any path forward? My nephew's spirit is crushed, yet he yearns to try again, to mend this fractured relationship. Update, July 5th, 2025. The collective wisdom I received echoed a truth I recognized, but ignored in a moment of raw emotion. When my nephew, distraught, unable to reach his parents, called out to me, I felt an undeniable obligation. I had to contact my brother. But when others confirmed my error, reminding me it was not my place, I was forced to confront the powerful surge of feeling that made me disregard that thought entirely. Guilt lingers. My emotions had made me overstep. Regret burned. My brother's family was his, not mine. My unsolicited opinion, a grave error, had crossed a boundary. I knew I had to call him back to apologize for blatant interference. When we spoke, his tune softened. After my apology, he appreciated it, admitting deep reflection. He felt compelled to clarify. He understood my urge to call, seeing it in hindsight. His son, he revealed, had truly drawn me into a situation not my business. By doing so, his son made it my business, which profoundly fueled his desire for clarity. He explained his firm talk with his son about seeking others' approval after parental no, a disrespectful habit parents understand, like asking mom for ice cream after dad's no. He detailed why he would decline the youth pastor's offer for his son to try again. His stern words solidified our bond. I left with profound respect, humbled by his wisdom and a lesson in restraint. His conviction was absolute. His son must learn life's brutal lesson: second chances are simply not guaranteed. Yet I persisted, suggesting church offered a perfect, sacred refuge. I passionately explained how church was truly meant to be a loving family, yearning for mutual success. The Bible, 1 Thessalonians 5:11, commands us to build each other up in Christ. What more fitting place, I argued, to allow God to use his son's perseverance as a living testimony to inspire others. I reminded him of the cherished VeggieTales movie, Jonah's Story, vividly illustrating God's grace and endless second chances. This, I told him, was precisely what his son humbly sought. But he remained utterly unyielding, stubbornly reiterating church wasn't the place. It was, he insisted, solely about God. My patience frayed. If this wasn't God's will, I pressed, why had the youth pastor granted explicit permission? His next confession was shocking. The standing ovation his son received, that spontaneous outpouring of support, had deeply upset him. This crucial detail, I realized, he deliberately withheld from our initial conversation. When I asked him why *, his chilling reply pierced me. His son, he stated flatly, didn't deserve that recognition. He simply didn't. The memory still makes me shiver. My friend was utterly beside himself, furious about his son's recent performance. He compared the standing ovation his son received to a mere participation trophy, utterly devoid of real meaning. He found it profoundly embarrassing. A few kind people approached them after church, offering gentle encouragement, telling his son to try again next time. I attempted to reason with him, explaining that the spontaneous applause was clearly born of a desire to encourage a young person within our congregation. But he remained stubbornly insistent. Learning, he declared, demanded genuine consequences. To him, being told a few days later at youth group that another attempt was possible simply wasn't how life usually works. This wasn't the hard reality he believed his son needed to face. He then announced his firm intention. He would confront the youth pastor directly. That, he stated, was the final word on the matter. I respectfully told him I disagreed profoundly with his rigid position. However, I also made it clear I wouldn't call him about it again, acknowledging that technically, it was none of my business. What I did suggest, a final plea, was for him to get another, perhaps wiser, opinion from someone else in the church before speaking to the youth pastor. But he quickly dismissed the idea, stating flatly that there was absolutely no need for further counsel. He thanked me for the call, and our conversation ended, leaving a bitter taste. A profound sense of missed opportunity settled over me, a heavy realization. There was truly nothing more I could say nor would do. I truly hope other opportunities arise for my nephew. What struck me as deeply ironic, even quite unsettling, was my own attempt to employ Christian jargon to convince my brother, despite personally abandoning that faith years ago. The other reason I felt profoundly compelled by this was a coworker whose son he often vents about. This young man graduated high school with honors, attended community college with plans to transfer to a university. He was even in the honor program, yet tragically, he dropped out for a plethora of reasons, primarily addiction. It's now approaching 2 years since he last attended class. He lives with his parents, defiantly refusing to find work or pay rent. His parents are bitterly split on whether to evict him. I find it utterly tragic, considering how genuinely smart he always seemed. So, when my nephew calls, feeling terrible about his fear, I believe his renewed motivation to try again must be rewarded. To prevent him from doing so would cruelly rob him of a cherished, lifelong memory of I hope my nephew learns to rise again, a crucial lesson he'll carry for years when life throws new challenges at him. My deepest fear is this experience will stunt his growth and confidence. My coworker's son was fiercely career-driven, a stark reminder not to take a child's motivation for granted. I bitterly regret not mentioning my coworker's son to my brother. Perhaps it might have changed his mind, though I truly doubt it. A part of me feels the embarrassment he mentioned truly drives his decision, but I desperately pray he values his son's best interests more than his own discomfort. Second update. July 20th, 2025. I didn't want to post again, but 2 deeply unsettling events demand I break my silence. My nephew, his voice strained and heavy, informed me over the phone that my brother had spoken to the youth pastor. He requested, with undeniable demand, my nephew's immediate removal from July's Youth Sunday lineup. This was the platform where he would have performed that poignant song, sharing his gift while the tithe baskets were passed. My brother told the youth pastor, with chilling conviction, that God told him he wasn't ready. He then relayed that truly devastating, self-serving message directly to my innocent nephew, utterly shattering his hopeful young spirit. This crushing news left me speechless, furious for my bright, young nephew. I can only hope he finds the inner strength to rise above this manipulation. My nephew confided his need for more time, a quiet pause. He wished not to rush. The youth pastor, showing grace, complied, removing him from July's lineup. Yet a lifeline remained, August's Youth Sunday, if his spirit truly felt ready. My heart ached for him. I offered encouragement during the phone call. But before I delve deeper, a crucial explanation is due now. My original post brought a flood of passionate DMs. Many argued that those who dismissed my concern, insisting my nephew's struggles were none of my business. were profoundly wrong. One parent offered profound insight. They hoped their extended family would step in, offer accountability if they ever faltered or were truly screwing up. With hindsight's clarity, I readily admit my missteps. Yes, I concede this undeniable truth. My brother's family life, fundamentally, remains his personal, private domain. But when a child reaches out, seeking desperate help on a matter not inherently wrong, our adult responsibility is immense. We must guide them to heed parents' wise counsel, if sound, or cautiously approach the parents, seeking their perspective. This holds true, however, unless the chilling specter of confidential abuse looms. Then, different, urgent actions are truly demanded. I've kept quiet for too long, but this distressing situation with my nephew still gnaws at me. I saw absolutely no downside to the church's warm encouragement, a chance for a truly lifelong memory of profound redemption. The youth pastor, a genuinely compassionate soul, even approved a second try for my nephew. But then, my brother ruthlessly stepped in. He twisted faith itself, invoking God's holy name, all to mask his own profound insecurity and change his son's mind. The hypocrisy was absolutely blinding. His personal embarrassment shamelessly overrode the youth pastor's clear, empathetic decision. Did the pastor's spiritual guidance not count? Or was divine wisdom only valid when convenient for my brother? My mind truly reeled. By denying my nephew this vital opportunity, my brother struck at the very heart of Christian belief. He cruelly declared, "You don't always get second chances," yet our entire faith is built upon that very concept. If humanity hadn't received a second chance after the Genesis sin, we would all be damned. The ultimate redemption came precisely because God sent Jesus into the world to offer exactly that, a boundless, grace-filled second chance. My brother's actions were a profound contradiction. I kept quiet for a long time, but this story still stirs a profound sadness within me. It challenges the very core of what I understand about faith and forgiveness. God himself granted humanity a second chance through the cross for their sins, yet my brother, the father, denied his own son that same grace. To prevent his child from serving in the house of God, especially with a youth pastor's prior approval, felt like a deliberate act, undermining the very basis of Christianity itself. It was truly a disheartening display of spiritual hypocrisy. A recent call with my nephew confirmed my fears. He had undergone a profound change of heart since our last conversation. He no longer wanted to play piano in church. The desire, once vibrant, had been extinguished. He'd asked my brother if he could play for August's Youth Sunday, only to be met with a cold, unyielding no. When he pressed, daring to ask how long this ban would last, my brother's response was chilling. "Until I say otherwise." This arbitrary control, coupled with the suffocating arguments that constantly erupted in their home, cemented my nephew's decision. He confided he was utterly exhausted. Tired of the yelling that echoed through their arguments, tired of striving to meet invisible deadlines from his dad, goalposts that perpetually shifted, always just out of reach. When he finally told my brother of his decision, the response was unexpectedly calm, almost dismissive. My brother simply agreed, stating, "The focus should be on God and church and nothing else." Such a convenient shift after using faith as a weapon. Given the emotional toll and constant manipulation, I absolutely do not blame him. How could I? His spirit has been repeatedly wounded by a father who treats commitment like a game of moving goalposts. This was never truly about spiritual focus. It was about rigid control. Even his mother, who was trapped in the middle, saw the injustice, her face reflecting the deep hurt of a child stripped of his joy and purpose. This painful saga leaves a lingering question of faith and family. My nephew, who originally seemed open to trying again, regrettably aligned with his father. When I spoke to him, my heart heavy, I knew I had to infuse him with resilience. I encouraged him to channel that motivation into every facet of his young life, especially his next recital. I promised to attend, a steadfast presence. I affirmed his innocence, stating clearly and with conviction he had done nothing wrong. Stage fright grips even adults. True strength is rising after a fall. I drew a sports parallel, reminding him how players, unfairly denied second chances, spectacularly proved deniers wrong. Peyton Manning, cast aside by Colts after injury, soared with Broncos, winning a Super Bowl following MVP seasons in Denver. His spirit needed mending. I also promised something truly fun next time, ice cream or a movie, whatever his heart desired. Distance usually means only holiday visits, but his sadness compels me. I'm now seriously considering taking time off to see him sooner, to bring a light back into his world. He desperately needs a genuine distraction, a moment of pure joy, and I am determined to provide it, even if it alters my own schedule. My nephew yearned for the new Nintendo device, though stores I'd checked were utterly out of stock. My heart ached for him. I desperately needed ideas to genuinely cheer him up. Regarding my brother, a deep tension gripped me. I wrestled with calling, feeling compelled to speak. I sought to ease his anger, apologizing for my past, misguided reach on my nephew's behalf, having heeded truly poor advice. Ultimately, I chose an email. It allowed careful thought to organize words on paper to ensure clarity. I began by plainly stating it was not my place to dictate his parenting, his family's path. Yet, a deep need compelled me to offer my perspective one last, heartfelt time regarding this sensitive situation. With far greater tenderness than I expressed here, I gently reminded him of divine grace, how God sent Jesus to give humanity a precious second chance. I conveyed this without accusing him of depriving his son, for my sincere hope was only for his contemplation, for him to truly consider it in his heart. I further implored him to seek wisdom from someone at church for a second, godly opinion, noting the community's clear support for his son. Even if my words failed, I knew I had done my utmost. I could only hope now a silent, lingering ache consumes my spirit as I reflect on this ongoing family saga, a drama steeped in faith and fractured relationships. My nephew, a sensitive soul, had unequivocally refused to participate in the July church program, his usual lightheartedness replaced by a visible, heavy burden. Sensing his silent plea, I felt an urgent need to intervene, gently encouraging my brother, his father, to allow the boy another chance in August. My deepest hope was to shield his young heart from building resentment towards both the rigid church and his own family, fostering a space for true spiritual growth, not forced compliance. My conviction stands firm. Should my nephew ultimately choose to diverge from the path of Christianity, he must feel utterly free to do so, completely validated in his decision, regardless of the reasons that guide him. But to witness his nascent faith crumble, not under the weight of genuine spiritual questioning or profound personal revelation, but tragically, beneath the fragile, suffocating shadow of his father's unyielding ego. That prospect fills me with an unbearable sense of sorrow, a profound and lasting shame. I cling desperately to hope, praying for a more compassionate and understanding outcome for him. The days following my email stretched into a tense eternity, marked by a deafening silence from my brother. My emotions raged. I yearned to unleash a torrent of harsher, more accusatory words, to strip away the veneer and expose the deep hypocrisy I perceived. People like him, cloaked in self-righteousness, pervert faith itself, cruelly twisting God's sacred name. They use it as a convenient shield to justify their own deep-seated insecurities, inflicting needless, cruel behavior upon those they claim to love. Such actions, I believe, shame us all, staining the very reputation of true Christians. Yet, I recognized that such a confrontational tone would instantly slam the door shut between us, extinguishing any fragile hope of genuine introspection or reconciliation. So, with a heavy heart, I deliberately opted for a softer, more pleading approach, praying it might gently pierce his formidable defenses without provoking an immediate, defensive backlash. My singular hope now rests on the prayer that my nephew will seek solace and truly godly counsel from a church community that genuinely embodies support and understanding, rather than judgment and control. Then, on the solemn date of July 27, 2025, a jarring text message arrived. It was from my brother. His response, chillingly brief and devoid of warmth, contained a clear, cutting accusation. He stated, without preamble, his profound disappointment. He vehemently claimed I had gone back on my solemn promise, a word given to him long ago, not to interfere, not to stir the pot, regarding his parenting or his family's spiritual path. He views my intervention as a direct betrayal, a breaking of trust, after he had explicitly believed I would respect his boundaries and leave the matter untouched. This betrayal in his eyes now widens the chasm between us, a rift that might never truly heal. The cost of speaking truth, I truly realize, is often the very peace it seeks to restore. He declared our previous call the last. He vehemently denied my right to use the Bible, claiming my non-practicing Christian status nullified my attempts to convince him. His words cut deep. He asserted he wouldn't dictate my life, demanding I never raise the topic again. The silence that followed was bitter. I've yet to respond, but I had another talk with my nephew regarding a recent decision. He confessed he'd decided to stop playing piano entirely, for more reasons I hadn't known, reasons that tugged at my heart. He'd mentioned the frequent yelling whenever he asked his dad for another chance. But what I hadn't known was the cruel truth. He was punished for asking the youth pastor if he could try again after my brother's firm no earlier that week. When he revealed the youth pastor's yes to my brother, he was swiftly punished. My brother confiscated his video game device for a few days, a calculated blow. This act played a devastating part in him losing his desire to practice throughout much of last month, leaving him utterly disillusioned. He has now entirely decided to quit piano. When he confessed, "I usually keep family matters private, but this situation has truly troubled me, festering in my mind." My brother's parenting choices have always been questionable. What he did to my nephew recently, however, crosses a line. I spoke to him. He actually agreed with my nephew's decision, a choice born from sheer humiliation. My nephew's own mother, however, saw the inherent cruelty, dissenting sharply. My nephew confided in me, his voice heavy with shame. He recounted how my brother had gone directly to the youth pastor. He accused his own son of disobedience, merely for daring to ask if he could try again after an initial refusal. This paternal betrayal played a direct role in the pastor's swift decision to remove my nephew from the performance lineup. Imagine that public disgrace. Initially, my nephew hadn't shared the full truth, omitting that my brother had already dismissed his plea before he approached the pastor. But even knowing that, my conviction remains unshaken. My brother is deeply, fundamentally wrong. My nephew showed resilience, initiative, a spark of passion, yet he was met with punishment. He lost his passion entirely, a light snuffed out by his heavy hand. How can I blame him for recoiling from such a spiteful, suffocating home environment? And then, the final blow. My nephew revealed my brother even suggested he take a break from his beloved piano lessons. This new detail, uncovered only during our most recent conversation, twisted the knife further. My nephew, utterly defeated and embarrassed by his father's public shaming, eventually told my brother he simply couldn't attend youth group anymore. And my brother chillingly just agreed, a young spirit broken by misplaced authority. My heart aches for him. The situation reached its painful climax. My brother, with stern resolve, freed my nephew from that youth group and from Sunday services at that church. He declared they would seek a fresh start, a new youth group in the wider community. This, he insisted, would finally silence the whispers and gossip at church concerning my nephew's eventual return to playing piano. Over the years, my brother has navigated various church changes, seeking a true spiritual home. But my heart truly aches that my nephew lost a sanctuary of genuine support, a non-toxic community incredibly rare these days, a solace he desperately needed. Their extraordinary act, a heartfelt standing ovation given after his deeply felt shortcomings, was a profound demonstration of Jesus' pure, unconditional love, a sacred gift easily overlooked and never, ever to be taken for granted. While my brother teaches extensively there, holding commitments he feels compelled to honor, I harbor no surprise that his departure is, ultimately, inevitable. My strong conviction tells me he will leave sooner rather than later. I desperately pleaded with my nephew, urging him not to let their disappointing actions poison his precious passion for the piano. But his young heart had already made its unyielding decision when we last spoke. I had already begun to make plans to dedicate precious time to him, to genuinely help him heal from this wound, to rekindle that lost spark of joy a heavy burden weighs on me as Labor Day weekend approaches, for I must visit him to offer solace. He desperately needs every ounce of encouragement. He confessed a yearning to simply move past this agony, and who could truly fault him? The urge to expose my brother's cruel destruction of his son's cherished passion gnawed at me. Revealing this shameful act to family would bring justice, I thought. Yet, I held back, knowing his desire for peace. My silence protects him. Any perceived betrayal could plunge him deeper into turmoil at home. My path forward, I know, lies in professional guidance. I need to truly support him, to equip myself for future battles. This crucial step won't materialize before my visit, yet my resolve is firm. I must become his unwavering advocate, a long-term bulwark against the inevitable parental storms. My respect for my brother had already fractured, shattered by his relentless political pronouncements, shouted despite my clear pleas for peace. He only heard no when it served his twisted narrative, especially regarding the piano incident. But this latest cruelty has annihilated any remaining sliver of regard. He is dead to me. His monstrous treatment of his son has severed our bond irrevocably. Every fiber of my being screams to unleash a torrent of rage, to yell until broken. But I restrain this fierce desire. I must ensure I am a beacon of stability for his son, not another storm in his tumultuous life. My anger, though righteous, must not overshadow his fragile need for peace. A new and painful blow landed. A fourth update on August 7th, 2025, leaving me shattered. I refuse to be cut off from my nephew, a brave soul who feels comfortable venting to me. He receives no true support from his own parents, making it absolutely crucial that I preserve this vital link for his future. For years, my visits to my brother for holidays or brief trips followed a firm ritual. I always gave him a heads up about the weekend I envisioned. This helped us schedule activities. My brother initially welcomed my Labor Day visit with his usual ease. Days ago, I confirmed it via text, and his reply was affirmative, seemingly untroubled. But then, an abrupt, cold shift. A new text arrived, bearing a hollow apology for a last-minute reversal. His words were stark, blunt. He deemed my visit inappropriate, directly citing the church situation. The consequences were chilling. Should I still come, he stated, we wouldn't hang out. And more painfully, I couldn't stay with them. For so many years, their home had offered a haven, allowing me to save money on accommodation during my visits, a comfort now cruelly denied. This betrayal deeply stings, widening the chasm in our fractured family. I kept quiet for a long time, but this story still makes me shiver with a deep, unsettling fear for my family. My plan for Labor Day weekend, a simple, comforting stay in the family room on a pull-out couch, was abruptly, coldly dismissed. Never before had he dared to bar me from a family gathering, making this the first time I was explicitly told I couldn't come. When I called, my voice laced with desperate hope for an explanation, his tone was frigid, utterly devoid of warmth. He declared, with chilling finality, that I was not to speak with my nephew over the phone for the time being. The cruelty deepened, twisting my gut, when he confessed he'd also strictly instructed my beloved nephew not to call me ever. My protests, a desperate plea for reason and fairness, were met with an unyielding, almost sinister threat. He chillingly stated he would know if I dared to contact my nephew, a claim made undeniably potent by my awareness of the parental controls rigidly placed on my nephew's phone. This suffocating control, this deliberate, painful isolation, has forced my hand into a painful choice. From this moment, I will cease all communication with them until I can consult a professional counselor. I need to truly understand how best to support and protect my cherished nephew, both now and in the dangerously uncertain future. A gnawing dread now consumes me. My nephew's hushed, fragmented mentions of yelling and other unnamed, horrifying incidents hint at a reality far darker, far more menacing, than I can even begin to grasp. Our fragile family bonds feel stretched perilously thin, like a single thread about to snap completely. I must seek professional guidance, a clear, empathetic path forward, before I make an irreversible error and find myself tragically severed entirely from my beloved nephew. I will not be cut off. What if my nephew truly needs me in the future? This thought weighs heavily upon me. I booked a doctor's appointment, hoping for a faster therapist referral, frantically searching online for aid. Fifth update. September 5th, 2025. Labor Day passed, leaving tension. I refused my brother's 180, ignoring his abrupt text. Days later, with audacious nerve, he called, offering a hollow apology for his change. When he asked why I hadn't responded, I voiced displeasure with his 180 and his cruel command to avoid my nephew. Then came his chilling admission. He'd blocked my number on my nephew's phone via parental controls, claiming de-escalation. This flimsy justification ignited a fierce argument. He insisted it was temporary, a mere pause. But can I trust him? His patterns deeply unsettle me. My quest for mental solace continued. I'd sought a doctor's referral for therapy, but his earliest appointment lay months away. This crushing delay left me desperate. I decided to. The escalating distress surrounding my nephew had weighed heavily on my conscience, a burden I could no longer bear. It compelled me to utilize my job's employee resources, which mercifully offered free counseling. I needed answers, a clear path forward, an objective voice to untangle these disturbing threads. I poured out my heart, explaining how my nephew had bravely reached out for help, hinting at deeper issues at home beyond the shouting, though hesitant to specify details when I pressed him. Her insight was immediate, chillingly clear. She articulated a pattern of isolation, questioning why his parents would abruptly pull him from a supportive church community and simultaneously forbid me from contacting him. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't merely a family squabble, it was a deliberate attempt to sever his ties. Her advice was stark, yet empowering: involve my parents and potentially others. It would be far harder for them to cut off an entire network of concerned individuals. I made the difficult, yet necessary, decision. My parents, both devoted Christians, listened in stunned silence as I recounted everything that had befallen my nephew. Disgusted and entirely unaware of the depths of the situation, they attended a different church than my brother. Their reaction was visceral. A righteous anger stirred within them. Swiftly, after our conversation, they contacted my brother. The inevitable backlash arrived shortly after. My phone buzzed with a text from him, sharp and cutting. I had no place to meddle in his family business. The anger in his words stung, but I refused to engage in a sterile, text-based argument. I knew a true confrontation required more. I braced myself, dialing his number, preparing for the storm, knowing that this conversation, however painful, was utterly essential. This was not just about family drama. It was about the desperate cry of a child, and I would not stay silent. The line rang, echoing the tension in my own heart. Our brief conversation was chilling, a cold declaration. He stated with stark finality that the situation was irrevocably over. His wife and son had already begun attending another church. He'd join them after his commitments concluded, but the pronouncements didn't end there. He then severed another bond, informing me I was no longer welcome for Thanksgiving or Christmas, not for the foreseeable future, not until things die down. My heart sank, heavy with sorrow. I immediately called my parents, words spilling out in a torrent of disbelief and anguish. Their reaction was visceral. They were utterly appalled by his callousness and pronouncements. A somber discussion followed as my parents grappled with an impossible choice, weighing two urgent courses of action. Their first, an agonizing thought, was to call for a wellness check for my nephew, perhaps even Child Protective Services, as they meticulously researched which path would best protect their grandson. The second course, however, they had already set in motion. They reached out to a trusted pastor at their own church, confiding the full, distressing situation involving my nephew. The pastor, his voice imbued with quiet resolve, promised to see if he, or another compassionate colleague, could intervene. He would attempt to contact the pastor at my brother's church, intending to disclose the real, unsettling reason my brother had prevented his son from trying again, exposing the web of deceit he had spun by shamelessly lying to the youth pastor, concealing the painful truth. He claimed divine intervention, asserting his son wasn't ready, cleverly sidestepping his embarrassment and flimsy excuses. I wholeheartedly endorse both paths we've considered. Indeed, we plan to pursue them both. Yet, my heart truly favors the second, a brilliant strategy crafted by my parents and our wise pastor. He further elaborated on an established protocol. Churches, when confronted with sensitive situations or needing to caution about a member with a harmful history, often reach out to others in the community. He believes our current predicament could very well fall within that accepted framework. Then came the recent blow. When my parents, with a glimmer of hope, gently suggested visiting during their call, my brother's refusal was stark and immediate. He declared he didn't want them there. This is our grim reality now, a truly cold, hard wall. October 7th, 2025. This, regrettably, will be my final public update on this deeply painful saga. I feel an urgent need to offer some sense of closure to all who generously offered advice, including the invaluable insights from counselors who reached out privately. A swift, simple resolution for this tangled situation simply isn't visible on the horizon. My own counselor at work, after hearing the complexities, concurs with a heavy heart. My nephew, caught in this agonizing web, faces a long, arduous struggle with his parents. The battle for his well-being is truly a long game, far from over, until he turns 18. A captive in his own home with little hope of CPS action, our only option was to offer support. My parents and I found my brother's extreme overreaction baffling. He then forbade us from visiting my nephew, a drastic and cruel step that made no sense over mere church stage fright, even if it caused him deep embarrassment among his peers. My parents, however, believed something far more sinister was occurring. Our fears intensified when my nephew, in prior calls, tearfully hinted at other things besides yelling, horrors he wasn't yet comfortable disclosing to me. Driven by desperation, my parents sought counseling from their church, a source of solace amidst the turmoil, and then, with heavy hearts, they initiated contact with Child Protective Services. I, too, made the agonizing call to CPS, detailing my own first-hand experiences concerning my nephew's plight. My parents now cling to a fragile hope that someone from their church might also step forward and report, though the odds feel painfully small since my brother deliberately avoids their congregation. The pastor they consulted offered a grim reality. Chilling revelation unfolded. Our pastor received permission to contact my brother's church concerning the web of deceit he wove for the youth pastor. I am consumed by dread, knowing the outcome is uncertain. His denomination, distinct from ours, will decide if and how to address this profound betrayal. A deeper, agonizing debate consumed my parents. Should they inform our wider family about how my nephew was brutally cut off, severed from us? Their difficult decision not to speak was based on harrowing developments. When my parents bravely confronted my brother after learning the truth, his response was swift, cruel, no visits. He then, with chilling precision, used my nephew's parental controls to block their numbers. Now both my parents and I are silenced, our lifelines to my nephew cruelly severed, a swarm of red flags violently waving. I harbor no regret for confiding in my parents. Their invaluable insight and unwavering support have been my steadfast anchor. Their parental authority also lends immense weight, a critical voice, should we ever need to involve Child Protective Services regarding my brother's disturbing actions. Yet they deliberately chose to keep other extended family in the dark, for now. A fragile, desperate hope guides them, that my nephew might still reach out to those relatives, that his other numbers haven't been blocked. My parents only faced this digital isolation after directly challenging my brother. If my see-unless a counselor, ours or theirs, advises otherwise, we'll consider it. I still hold a faint hope for my brother's church to handle this crisis, given their solid past support for my nephew. My final, painful point concerns my brother's wife. Many asked why I didn't call her. When this sad situation began, she was supportive of my nephew trying the church again. But in later calls with my nephew, before being blocked, he disclosed her betrayal. She turned, joined his father, and began yelling fiercely at him too. For that reason, I simply didn't bother. She was complicit in that cruel verbal assault with my brother.